Yeah. All right. Big thanks to the great Loki of Loki's Mornings of Message for that intro that he made for me. I played it twice. I like it so much. Very cool of him. Very kind of him. Above and beyond the call, my friend. Thank you so much. And I enjoyed both being on your show for 9 hours Saturday, Mr. Loki, and for you coming on my show the other night, Monday night. And your show this morning was great, and you're the man. Appreciate it. I know you're not hearing me right now, but it's out there. Putting it out there anyway, man. Appreciate it so much. I'm hearing you, Minimus. Are you there? Yeah, great. No good. No, I was hearing some background noise, but now I'm not. I don't know if you are. You got normal headphones now?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Welcome, everyone. We got a couple people in. We hope some others will pop in later. Today, of course, is August 28th, 103 years ago today. And that's what we're going to talk about, of course. Welcome. This is Clobberin Time, issue number 16/716. Clobberin Times now here on YouTube. Been making some fantastic new friends. Been having some guests and being a guest and all that other kind of stuff. And now Minimus has got his great avatar where his picture with the great Jack Kirby. As you can see mine there. It's fuzzy, of course. But today, yes, 103 years ago today, the great Jack Kirby, the great king of comics, in my opinion, greatest creative force of the 20th century. And nobody in the 21st century will ever match him either. Did so much more than draw funny books, did so much more, created concepts and worlds and characters and stories, and along with one of the most prolific careers as an artist, not one of the most, and it's not even close. And that's statistically easily verifiable. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go look at some of these sites that calculate how many pages different artists have drawn over the years in comic books. It's not even close. So the great Jack Kirby, the king of comics, should be celebrated more. Every time anyone goes and sees a Marvel movie and they see Stan Lee pop up, and yeah, it's great and all, without some nod to Jack, it's an injustice. I mean, he puts news, Stan, rest his soul. You can put it. I have no problem with them, or I would have no problem with them putting him in the films if they gave equal, really should be more, but equal time to Jack in some fashion. Granted, he couldn't be there. They never did. Pretty much never did. So screw them.
Well, Kirby was on that one episode of The Incredible Hulk.
Well, there you go. It's all better now. I forgot all about that.
No, I mean it's not like it never happened. I don't know whose idea that was.
In 1979.
I know. I don't know whose idea that was, but somebody might have been Lou Ferrigno. I don't know, but somebody had a really good idea to put Kirby in the show as a police sketch artist.
Right,
and
I remember.
We got another little taste of Kirby from history too in the movie Argo, where the CIA was busting people out of Tehran, and they made a fake movie, and they had Jack Kirby draw up all the designs of like a futuristic city.
Eastland Burkholder, thanks for being here, sir. All right, my new old friend, I should say. He's been with the show here since the beginning. I see you every now and then in some of the other chats of some of the other friends' streams. Yeah, I never actually saw Argo, but yeah, I've heard about that as well. Well, we'll touch on it a little bit later because we'll talk about science fiction land a little bit maybe. What we'll do last time when Carlos was on with me a few weeks back when we did a Kirby celebration, we kind of just went in general in a very basic way through his life and a lot of his career and stuff like that. But a couple days ago was the 50th anniversary of Kirby creating and starting his Fourth World saga for DC Comics, and of course starting the Bronze Age of comics. It was with Jimmy Olsen. My lovely friend Nicole. Hey, Nicole. All right, great to see you there. Beautiful lady in the chat there, ladies and gentlemen. If there are any gentlemen here. Question mark. So, yes, Bronze Age started, but it was Jimmy Olsen number, I think it was like 168 or something. I'm probably getting the number wrong. something like that. When Jack Kirby left Marvel Comics, due to all kinds of conflicts with Stanley and especially Martin Goodman. A lot of we're not going to go into all that right now. Actually, Alter Ego just released a very fascinating issue all about Martin Goodman. You want to talk about the villain of Marvel Comics. It's not just Stan, but anyway. That was what was the dude that played quote unquote played Kirby in Argo? God, good actor. I always forget the guy's name. Good actor.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. He was in a bunch of Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
He was on a TV show called Then Came Bronson. He didn't look anything like Kirby. Apparently, they weren't too worried about him looking like Kirby.
Yeah.
But all he did was just sit there and present the drawings. And I think they were actual Kirby drawings or photostats of Kirby drawings.
Yes, that's right. And he was remember, but he was working at that time on I think with science fiction author Roger Zelazny they were talking about like a theme park called Science Fiction Land. How wouldn't that have been amazing? Yeah. Oh, too bad that never happened. But for those who do not know, Jack Kirby was toward the last few years of his career in with Marvel in the Silver Age. He was, to say the least, really fed up, disgruntled with all these great ideas and concepts he had been creating and quote unquote giving to Marvel, letting them use it, make money on it. And he wasn't getting anything but page rates. Stan has said that he wanted to make Kirby an editor, or he wanted to give him some more piece of the pie, give him some more authority, but like something like that, and giving him some in charge. But these were his creations. So toward the end of his run on FF and Thor, he still drew. I mean, so the art's still wonderful, especially a lot of stuff inked by Joe Sinnott. Well, even Vince Coletta couldn't ruin it. So the art was still top notch, great, some of his best work. But he was kind of holding back on some of the ideas, his words, not mine, to take them somewhere else where he might be able to have more of an ownership in them to do what he wanted. So a lot of the stuff he'd had planned for Thor, he kind of translated over into his fourth world. Let's see, we got Michael Parks, Minimus, thank you. Minimus Prime. And by the way, as you can all see here, both Minimus's avatar and my picture that I have here, 1990, Atlanta Fantasy Fair, our second meeting with the King of Comics. Man, that was, I know you probably think about it a lot too. It was just, man, that was amazing.
Yeah, I also, my first one was really my ultimate fanboy moment because he barely talked to me. I talked to Roz because I had my copy of Hunger Dogs, and he was talking to another cartoonist, Jean Giraud, Mobius, and I didn't want to interrupt them, but I'm standing there, and Roz looks up at me and she says, "Can I help you, young man?" Because at the time I was a young man, and I said, "Can I get this autographed?" And she basically just backhanded him on the shoulder. And she says, "Jack, he wants this autograph." Okay. He looked at her. He goes, "What's your name?" And I showed him. And he goes, "Oh," and he squints. He says, "Is there an E at the end of that name?" I said, "Yes, sir. That was my conversation with Jack Kirby." So he signs it. He just signs it Jack Kirby. And he handed it to her. And then she handed it back to me. And I looked at it and it said Jack Kirby, which was fine. But I said, "Can he personalize it for me?" He asked me if he looked at my name, but he didn't sign my name. So I said, "Can he personalize it for me?" She goes, "Whap!" She goes, "Jack, he wants you to personalize it for him." And he goes, "All right." He looks over at my badge again like it's the first time, and he goes, "E, okay." And he signs it, and this whole time he's talking to Jean Giraud and getting beaten by Ross because there was a fan there. But yeah, that was a great introduction to the real life Jack Kirby.
Oh yeah, then it was great. That was Dallas. That everyone was Dallas Fantasy Fair, 1986. Eastland Burkholder, thank you, sir, and I do appreciate the words. Are you wet? Speaking of the weather, no, we got where we are. Unfortunately, about 3 hours west of us. Can't say the same thing, but we got very lucky here where we are. So we got missed by both of those bitches. So we're good. Thank you, though. Appreciate that. But yeah, man, and let's see here. That was at least they didn't pull on you what DeForest Kelly did when you told him your name was Claude, and he said it's one of my favorite DeForest Kelly, 1984, is one of my favorite actors. Claude Rains, and you had to be a smartass and say, I can't see him.
I said personally, I can't see it. I was trying to do Groucho, and it's like he was just signing stuff, and when I said that, it seemed like I had just insulted his choice as actor.
You don't like him?
And I said, Invisible Man. And he went, oh. He kept on signing shit.
An Invisible Man joke. Well, DeForest Kelly wasn't that old at that point, but he was just he was just going through the motions.
He was getting there.
And it was 1984, though. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. I mean, he was he had a few Trek movies in him left, so.
He was in movies in the 30s, man.
There he was. But maybe he knew Claude Rains. I don't know.
Probably.
Probably knew him. But yes, Eastland, I appreciate you being here. Anyone else who is here, please say hi if you can. We had a great time last night over at Paulie's Latino Slants stream, and I will be on with him next Thursday. Paul, and he'll pop in later probably. And again, thanks Loki for that great introduction, by the way. But yeah, these were two greatest geek times of my life, meeting Kirby both times. First time we got to corner them in the lobby of the hotel.
Yeah.
And get buy some original art. And then but the second time in Atlanta, we got to a couple of different days. We spent a long time with him.
Yeah, we bothered the hell out of them. We
don't mind either.
No. Yeah. Yeah, when you got a legend, you got to bother him unless he says go away. And Kirby never said go away. I understand that he was very happy to speak to his fans.
He may have thought it, but he didn't say it. And that was the thing. And I always tell this. I tell the story a lot. Get some echo back there. It must be anyway. I hope I'm the only one hearing that echo. Everyone coming out of. I don't know if you have your headphones on or what.
Can't hear it.
You have your headphones on.
Yes, I am phoning my head right now. I can't hear an echo.
Well, I remember talking to Roz all throughout that con, and at one point we went to the quarter box and got a bunch of old Kirby, Jimmy Olsen's, and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And everyone, this is a cover to. Here's the cover to his very beginning. Yeah, it was 133. That's right. This is where he started the Bronze Age, right here, in his fourth world in his DC years there. We got a bunch of these out of the quarter bins, and I just had a handful of them, and I would just conversationally showed them, held them up to show them to Roz, and she went to take them from my hand and said, well, as you know, Jack is not signing anything at this con. He's just talking to people, but I'll bring him up to the room and I'll get him to sign for these later because his arm's hurting. Man, that just
he had a wrist brace on.
That just floored me, though. I was so touched by that. I said, look, no. I just wanted to show you. I've got his autograph from last time. But yes, he had, like you said, he had a brace on.
And he was handing out pre-autographed cards.
Yep. And I still have his autograph on two different things: Fantastic Four number 51 on the opening splash page, and the Jack Kirby Treasury from way back when.
I bought a print. I bought a Captain America print.
We got an echo.
Well, I still can't hear your echo.
Well, Nicole says she can hear an echo there. I have no real sound checker anymore. Let me see something.
God, here comes UPS. I hope they're not coming for me.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was just checking my own. All right. Well, we'll have to soldier on with it here.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's done. Definitely. I don't know. You got a new mic, don't you? Yeah. A new headset. All right.
Ooh.
You.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's only like the second or third time I've used it.
All right. We'll soldier.
Let me try something.
True sound test, ladies and gentlemen. So, anyway, Jack Kirby left Marvel Comics. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. We don't really have any way to kind of fix it right now, so I hope it's not too bad. But I love you. Thank you.
March 6th, 1970.
Yep. The way he said, the way he said to have this wife running the household. Yeah, laugh. Well, yeah, Ross did tell us that the only reason they were at that con, Eastland, was that he answered the phone because she'd gone out to the store. Every time she answered the phone, she very politely declined because it was his health and things like that. Jack couldn't say no to anyone.
Yeah, I called their house shortly after we got back from that convention, and Roz answered the phone. And, you know, she remembered me, or said she remembered me. She's a very nice lady. And I said, I don't want to bother him. I said, I just want to tell you we had a great time. And we would not have had a great time if it hadn't been for you two. So. Oh, my God. Dude, look at been with us Their
forever.
number was listed. Their freaking phone number was listed.
Well, you know, there are all kinds of stories, especially back then. After that was around the time right before he went to D.C. The Kirbys moved out to Thousand Oaks, I guess it was California.
Yeah,
in a house out there, and there are so many stories of young people taking like hitchhiking out there and what have you to go and knock on the Kirbys' door. Some of them became comic book writers. Lynn Wein, Marv Wolfman did it, and a few other people, where they would be taken into their house. They fed them, showed them all of Kirby's studio and his art and everything, and were really, really amazing to these young people and these young fans. They were so great to their fans. Wonderful people, really.
They also said that Roz always made sandwiches for people. You never left their house without getting a sandwich from Roz. I can't remember who it was. This is a good story. Somebody went there and they said, I like this and this and this. And Jack gave them some comic book pages. And he's leaving the house, and Roz goes, where'd you get these? And he goes, Jack gave them to me. And Roz said to him, no, he didn't. She let him know, this is how we work. I mean, Jack's a really nice guy, and he'll give you the shirt off his back. But no, this is part of our legacy. So you're not going to say no to Roz. I mean, Roz was the queen of the house. Yeah,
she ran the thing. She ran the thing but she was a sweetheart. She was so nice to us, and she was so nice to a lot of people. You know, not too long after this, it got to a point that Jack Kirby was such an extraordinary creative person. He really had trouble doing some basic functional things like driving. Eventually, they wouldn't let him drive.
Yeah.
Later in his life, because he's always coming up with ideas. I mean, he was just an amazing idea man. We're going to talk a lot about that later. You won't believe some of the things, but yeah, there was at some point. Now again, I guess that's true, or is it legend? I don't know. But then for a while there, after a certain point, they wouldn't even let him drive because his mind.
Yeah.
Was just always thinking about things and creating things. It's just extraordinary.
That was around the time Greg Theakston was working for him and started driving him everywhere.
Yeah.
And he told a story about how they were, he had to go get him from the airport. And it was Jack and Roz and Julie Schwartz and his wife. And they're driving back to the Kirbys' house. And he said, I have 4 old Jews sitting in the car with me telling me what I'm doing wrong and then pointing out where to turn and which route to take. And he said, suddenly it went quiet and I realized they're all asleep.
Yeah, Mike Thibodeau, I don't know what he's doing now, but he did a comic called Last of the Viking Heroes.
Yeah.
And he was pretty nice to us when we met him in 90. Again, I always like to relay this to everyone before we get even more started. At this con in 1990, Atlanta Fantasy Fair, one of the most fun bits for me and I think for Claude was Jack had to be at an event for the con, and it was very crowded, and I got to lead the way with my big, well, it wasn't big as I am now, but I got to kind of plow the way through the crowd. I think you took up point behind them.
Yeah.
And we got to lead them to the thing. But the great Julius Schwartz, legendary DC editor, and I've told this a lot before, but I'm going to do it again. It's Jack's birthday, and it's important. He announced Jack this way, introduced him this way. Man, I got to get used to that echo thing. He said he got up on the stage. A lot of people. It was a huge crowd. And he said, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created Superman. Bob Kane and Bill Finger created Batman. And Jack Kirby did everything else.
Yeah.
Jack was a humble guy. Jack would probably say there were a lot of people who did a lot of things, and he was right. But yeah, I mean, as far as importance to the comic book field, to the comic book, again, and it stretches far beyond comic books. You could have never read a comic book in your life, and you have, even a long time ago, not just now, have experienced or enjoyed something probably that Jack Kirby. Well, without him, it wouldn't have happened. The Marvel movies are a big example of it, but there are other genres as well. There's a great magazine called The Jack Kirby Collector, but John Morrow, with 2 Morrows, has been putting out. I've been buying it. I have every issue. Been buying it since the mid-'90s. There's been a feature in that book. This is very telling. This is why he transcends comic book art.
Yeah.
It's called Kirby as a genre. I mean, if you think about that for a minute, how many people, even in other fields, have been influenced by Kirby and the things he's done and created?
Let's just throw a name out there. Eric Larson. What would Eric Larson be doing right now if it had not been for Jack Kirby? His whole style is Kirby.
And that's a comic book name. There are people who went into other fields of writing and art and music that will tell you that Kirby, somehow his creations were just so inspiring and things. Yeah, nope. Well, Eric Larson will be one for comics for sure, yeah. But here you had Jimmy Olsen. When Kirby was leaving to go to DC, he asked for their lowest selling book. That's legend, I guess. Probably true. And as you can see, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen is a pretty odd choice for the King of Comics to take over. But look at it. This is how big he was at the time. Look at the top. Kirby is here. Superman's ex-pal Jimmy Olsen. With a redrawn face on the cover, probably by Murphy Anderson, because idiots at DC didn't want Kirby drawing Superman's face. I believe you could elaborate on that a little bit.
The thing about it was, at the time, they had a house style, and they thought people would be confused if the kind of powerful Kirby style that they'd seen on this. I think it would have been great if Superman looked like Mr. Fantastic. I thought that was an awesome look, but they thought that if somebody saw a Jack Kirby face on a Superman, he didn't just do it to Superman's face. He did it to Jimmy Olsen too. If you saw those things drawn by Jack Kirby, and he did draw them, they just didn't get inked. I think initially they got inked, and they called Murphy Anderson and said, "We need you to make these like the stuff you and Kurt Swan are doing," and he did it. And it was a job. And I think Kirby kind of he didn't like it, but it was his job. He said 5 of the most amazing words a comic book artist could say about his industry and his input into it. I had to make sales. When you get right down to it, that's how Kirby was so productive. How Kirby drew more pages than anybody at the time, including Steve Ditko, drew more pages, created more characters, and kept doing it. Because in his mind, he's a kid from the Depression. And you don't have a job, you don't pay your rent, you don't get food, your family goes hungry. So his saying, I had to make sales. And he told everybody that. That was the thing that motivated him to create so many things and so many characters, from let's say from Challenges of the Unknown to Darkseid, even to when Topps came along and said, create a bunch of characters for us. And Kirby goes, here they are.
Yeah, we're gonna get to them later. They got a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So I'm just talking about his output and the thing that made him move. I mean, his kids were grown. His wife was an older woman and probably could have lived on retirement or whatever. I really wish that Kirby had survived to at least 100 to see all this stuff. You got people like Chris Evans. You never would have heard of him. He would have been in these movies. He would have been in Scary Movie with whipped cream on his cod. Tom Hiddleston.
He played 2 Kirby characters. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. But Tom Hiddleston, British actor. What's that other guy? Chris Hemsworth.
A lot of them probably wouldn't have these monstrous careers without Kirby.
And who's the guy who plays Agent Coulson? Clark Gregg.
What about Robert Downey Jr.? That's a Kirby creation too.
Clark Gregg. I'm talking about the people that you never would have heard of. Robert Downey Jr. was already out there.
Yeah,
but Clark Gregg was a minor player in a lot of things. But then he played Agent Coulson, and he did such a good job as Agent Coulson in the movies that it gave him a TV series, and they turned him into a mysterious character. And I fell away from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after the first season, but they did do one thing at the beginning of every episode that they should have done, even back in the cartoons, back in the Incredible Hulk TV series, and all the other stuff. It said Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. That's all really. What are you going to do for a dead guy? I mean, yeah, you can probably throw some money at his family out of courtesy.
Yeah.
But recognition.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And, RDJ, okay, yes, he was known, but he came to superstardom because of a Jack Kirby character. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Super iron stardom. But Kirby continued to slowly introduce his Fourth World Saga with Jimmy Olsen, and then later I think it was Forever People, the New Gods, right? Something along those lines.
Yeah, Forever People in Supertown, which I guess was actually New Genesis, and what was the other one? New Gods, Forever People, Demon, Mr. Miracle, and Commandy, which was my personal favorite for some reason. I mean, it was a very, very imaginative story, and he wrote, edited, and drew all that stuff. The only thing I didn't like about it, and I wish somebody could go back and correct it, was Vince Colletta inking a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, but you've said before that Colletta couldn't destroy Kirby.
He couldn't, especially on Thor. The thing about Thor was it was about a powerful character, and you had the most powerful artist drawing him. And but when you saw somebody like Bill Everett came in and substituted for a few issues, you saw, this is how good it could be.
Yeah. My favorite was Joe Sinnott, but that was Marvel, of course. But on DC, there were a couple of good ones. I mean,
I thought Joe Sinnott was perfect for Fantastic Four. Like I said, I didn't like Vince Colletta, not much at all, ever on anything.
Who did?
But when Bill Everett was every bit as good on Thor as Joe Sinnott was on Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, it didn't last longer.
No, absolutely. And then New Gods, of course, slowly did Kirby. Well, I'll put it to you like this. There's this character some of you may have heard of. He's kind of a baddie. And those of you who are all hyped up about this Snyder Cut, we're not going to get into the Snyder Cut, don't get me wrong. But everyone was really excited to see a certain character in that trailer, even though I think he looked like ass, personally. But he was in there, though. And that would be, what's his name again? It starts with a D.
Dumbass.
Well, sort of. But it was, of course, Darkseid.
Yeah.
Kirby had already participated, pretty much created, let's be honest, two of the most extraordinary villains ever in comics history, of course, the great Doctor Doom and Galactus. And then he goes to DC and gives us Darkseid, often copied, Thanos, and I think Starlin ripped him like 4 times. And I like Thanos, don't get me wrong, and I love the Starlin stuff, but Marvel, Darkseid.
Starlin also drew Darkseid a lot.
He did. Oh yeah. I love Starlin. I'm just saying that actually Roy Thomas came up with originally came up with most of Thanos, and it's Darkseid issue.
Yeah.
Actually, they originally intended to base Thanos on Metron, but somehow it just became sort of their Marvel's Darkseid, which is totally fine. Marvel and DC have ripped each other off forever.
Yeah,
So,
Swamp Thing, Man Thing.
Yeah, so there's no neither one has any kind of high ground when it comes to ripping each other off. But yes, with the Fourth World, when Kirby moved over to usher in the Bronze Age at DC Comics for his DC Comics career of about 4 or 5 years, whatever it was. Man, again, we've already talked about how prolific he was. He created. Now, is it in the league in terms of story and concept and lasting characters with his, Marvel, the best of his Marvel characters in the 60s and work? Many would say no, and I would agree with that to a point, but it's pretty great. I mean, especially the art-wise. It's still pretty amazing. I'm not putting it up there with his Silver Age Marvel stuff in terms of this, some of his peak work. I'm not putting it up there with the FF, the Avengers, Silver Surfer, Thor. I'm not, but man, it's still great. And he did not only the Fourth World stuff, which was wonderful. He had a few other titles as well. One that I love, and I know that Minimus loves, is this one right here, Commandy, which Jack, I don't know if anyone accused him of it or just mentioned him to it, said, Jack, you're pretty much ripping off Planet of the Apes. Now, Planet of the Apes came out before, but Jack had never seen it, believe it or not, at that point.
It was also, the cover looked an awful lot like an old cover of an Andre Norton novel. I think it was called Daybreak. 2160 AD. If you look that book up on Andre Norton, a lot of the covers have that very position. They don't have like the Statue of Liberty, but it's like a guy on a raft, a blonde-haired guy on a raft, and there's devastation in the background, and he's like on the water. Yeah.
I love Commandy. By the way, Haildioburg says, Hail, listening at work. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Another new buddy who has popped in. And, we got the Fandom Menace is fantastic. I'm making all kind of great friends. Thank you for popping in, sir. I appreciate that. Thanks for listening at work, man. I really do appreciate it. I'm honored. There was Commandy. And, again, this is Kirby for you. He doesn't just create a character. Doesn't just create stories. He creates worlds. Look at this map of Commandy's world.
I remember Commandy so well because it was my favorite DC Kirby book, and it wasn't Fourth World. It was totally separate from all that stuff. Later they tied it in stuff like
Tommy Tomorrow and shit.
What was the soldiers, Atomic Knights? They tied it into that somehow. But I had posed a question to somebody who was in comics and still is in comics. And I said, is there any chance somebody will one day reprint Commandy? And he said, I don't think there's any possibility of that. Well, shit.
Now they're there.
This was back in the day. They said, no way, that, nobody remembers him. Yeah. And my stupid immediate answer is, I remember him, and it didn't really mean anything to them. I was like, you're the only one. You're the only one that ever read Commandy and liked him. And just recently we came off of a 12-issue Commandy challenge book that was drawn by everybody, and you find out some of those. Well, it's not a great series because there was nothing to put it together, and I'm not ruining it for anybody because a lot of it was dumb. But at the end, Jim Lee did some stuff, but at the end, you find out that the guy that's controlling everything is this giant named Jack Kirby.
Oh, man. I didn't get that far. About a few issues of it.
I got it, and I got when it came out in trade paperback, I got that. Look, I got to tell you, DC does some really good work reprinting Kirby. I've got New Gods, like the whole run of New Gods under one cover. They put, I think I got, Mr. Miracle. I have not seen Commandy, but the thing about it is those covers are hideous because they're done in day glow colors. And I think it's because they want them to stand out in the comic shop. But I want them to if they're going to do that, keep doing it. I want the Demon. I damn sure want the Demon reprinted like that.
Well, oh yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about him in a second. I just a little bit of an aside as while we were talking earlier about the fourth world. Everyone, some of you may remember a film that's a very obscure film from the '70s called Star Wars something or other. A little independent film, small Star War about space
Wasn't
wizard.
that a military
Yeah,
defense platform
that
in
was
the
it. Yeah,
80s?
that was
Yeah.
it. Anyway, George Lucas, bless him, at least for giving us Star Wars. Um, there are a few things in Kirby's fourth world that kind of remind you of Star Wars, even though it predates it quite a bit. The Source,
Yeah.
father and son, villain and hero, as in Darkseid and Orion, things like that. Just saying, and of course, there's a picture. I don't have it. I don't have it loaded on, but I know it's out there somewhere where George Lucas and a bunch of other people actually meeting Kirby. And George Lucas has admitted to being a fan of the fourth world. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that also comes from everybody seems to have read Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
it is typical to find this in comics and movies. But when you have a guy like Kirby who takes the germ of an idea, like we didn't know right away that Orion was Darkseid's son, did we?
No, as a matter of fact, it was a reveal.
And this was Luke and Anakin with their face off because Orion knew it though, didn't he? He knew it, and the High Father was the one who raised him.
Yeah, they switched sons. They switched sons.
Yeah,
to keep peace between Apocalypse and New Genesis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all very complicated stuff, but still, again, people like to say Kirby wasn't the talented or scripter. I don't. Yeah, and there's validity to that, but the fact is, he was still amazing. He was incredibly imaginative and came up with. He did do great stories. He didn't have that silly Stan Lee flair for
florid
dialogue,
prose,
but that
florid prose.
Right, no florid prose, and yet the one thing that did not age well in all those Lee Kirby collaborations was the dialogue. Everything else is timeless. So sorry.
Well,
just wait, cookie crumbles, Stan. But that doesn't matter.
If you look at all the original art that Jack Kirby Collector has printed, and you look like in the margins, there's Jack Kirby saying what these characters are saying, and at one point it's Boulder in Kirby's dialogue it was like, okay guys, let's go. And Stan Lee turns it into a freaking paragraph with these and thous and so.
Yeah, he did. And it kind of helped with it. It made it popular. I mean, it definitely contributed something to it. But the story, none of it happens without Kirby. And you mentioned the Demon. This is again another one of Kirby's DC characters that was separate from the Fourth World stuff. Well, again, an incredibly imaginative character. Jason Blood. A knight in King Arthur's court betrays King Arthur for Morgan Le Fay's love, who turns on him, and Merlin curses him as a demon.
Yeah.
God, what a great character! I love the demon.
Merlin made it where he had to live forever.
He speaks in rhymes.
Yeah.
Gone, the form of man. Rise the demon Etrigan. Yeah.
Do you see how stupid people are today? Like whoever took over the demon when they brought him back in I guess in the 90s, they decided, rhyming is too hard.
Wasn't that Wagner that did that?
I don't know, but to take one of the facets of his personality away from him was a really bad idea, and it wasn't the demon.
And I love the Justice League cartoon. When they had him, they kind of did that. But I love Batman Brave and the Bold more for having the guts to have the rhyming demon.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Even Justice League Action did it too. They had the rhyming demon as Kirby intended. Great stuff. So Kirby, of course, was with DC, his Fourth World and things like that for about 4 years or so.
It wasn't long at all.
No, wasn't.
He started off with Marvel. His stuff actually hit at Marvel in '61, and he left in '70. Now he was there for 9 years, but he made an impact that's still being felt today. You don't have people coming up and creating shit for Marvel like like they used to, or like Kirby used to, because now everybody's afraid Marvel's going to take this away from me. I'm not going to own it anymore, and I'm not going to be able to buy my son the GI Joe with the Kung Fu grip for Christmas because it's a big corporation, which it was kind of when Kirby was working there. But mostly the reason why Kirby wasn't getting the respect that he was due back then when he quit was because Stan Lee was becoming a star. He was on the lecture circuit at colleges, going around telling everybody, "Face front, true believers," and Kirby was doing the work. And I think Stan was like he was out of touch with what was going on at the office, and somebody was what was it recently? It might have been I might have been watching one of the Kirby Facebook pages. Somebody's talking about it. Stan Lee would tell somebody a story. This is what I want you to do, and then he would say the exact same thing in the same meeting to them. Like they did, like whoever. Oh, I think it was Jim Shooter. Like didn't listen to him. So, or I guess he thought nobody listened to him, or maybe he was in his own head about going out and lecturing and meeting college kids and being the groovy Uncle Stan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he just didn't get treated well there, and some people say DC was really, some of the people at DC harbored ill will towards Jack because because Marvel was kicking their ass in the 60s.
Well, DC screwed Kirby over too.
Well, they did screw.
They promised him everything, and they gave him a few. Can I read something? A couple of paragraphs from Marvel Comics: The Untold Story by Sean Howe. I didn't write this. I guess I have to say this for copyright purposes. Sean Howe wrote this really nice big book called Marvel Comics: The Untold Story.
Interesting book, yes, great book.
It's out. Tales to Astonish was like a cartoon version of it. It not really very reliable. But here I'll start. This is Kirby deciding to leave. March 6th, 1970. It's a Friday. The ghosts of the 60s still clung. The Beatles, publicly together but having already broken up behind closed doors, released the single "Let It Be" that morning in Greenwich Village. A few minutes after 12 noon, members of the radical group, the Weathermen, accidentally detonated a bomb they were building, razing their townhouse headquarters. Uptown in Marvel's offices, Captain America number 128, in which a biker gang named Satan's Angels provided security for an all-night rock festival, was in production. Shortly after Jack Kirby's pages for Fantastic Four number 102 were delivered into Lee's hands, the phone rang at 635 Madison Avenue. "Jack's on the line," Stan Lee's receptionist called out. That was Flo Sternberg. A few minutes later, a stunned Lee called in Saul Brodsky and then Roy Thomas. The just delivered Fantastic Four pages on Stan Lee's desk still bear the scent of the Roy Tan Falcon cigars that Kirby smoked at his drawing board. The king was leaving Marvel. As soon as the news reached John Romita, he walked into Lee's office and asked if they'd be canceling Fantastic Four. "No," said Lee, "you're going to do it." "You crazy?" Romita asked, but finally accepted. "I did it under extreme duress because I felt inadequate," he recalled later. "It was like trying to raise somebody else's child." John Buscema had an even stronger reaction. "I thought they were going to close up," he recalled. "As far as I was concerned, Jack was the backbone of Marvel." Someone found one of the cigar butts that Jack Kirby had left behind on his last visit to the bullpen. Maurice Severin made it into an elaborate plaque. Herb Trimpe later recalled, labeling Jack Kirby's last cigar at Marvel with a fancy scroll work on it. She hung the plaque on a wall. It read, "Kirby was here." And that was the end of the Silver Age.
Wow. Yes, it was. Yes, it was, huh? Wow.
And go out and buy Sean Howe's book, Marvel Comics: The Untold Story.
It is very good. Also, if you can get it, try to go to two. If you're interested in this sort of thing, go to Tomorrow's which I love. They make all my favorite mags: Jack Kirby Collector, Back Issue, Alter Ego. There's a book that came out. It was considered an issue of the Jack Kirby Collector about a year or so ago. It came out, and it's called Stuff
Wonder Years?
Said.
Okay.
Wonder Years you can't get anymore. I mean, you can find.
I can go in my room and pull it out of a box.
Me too. I got it, but I'm saying you can actually get it online. Probably you can get it. I don't know if they put it on digital. I think you can get a digital of it.
Yeah.
But you can get the digital of Wonder Years, Lee Kirby, the Wonder Years. That just tells you a lot, mostly about their 102 issues on the Fantastic Four. It's really good. But Stuff Said is a book if you're interested in the ins and outs of the conflicts of the things said, by Lee and Kirby. It chronicles in a very nonpartisan way just what each of them said, things that are rumored that they said. Now you can get a fixed version because originally they made some mistakes in the original version that I have, and they had to come out with another version to correct some things. Stuff Said tomorrow. So I recommend it if you like reading about Kirby and and things that went on back then. I love that stuff.
Well, Greg Theakston also did a book, and he had been planning it for years, and the execution was it wasn't bad, but he self-published it, and he took a long time doing it. And I ordered it, and I let him know, hey, I ordered this, where is it? And he got mad at me. And I said, don't worry about it. I said, just send it when you can, because if you ordered it through him, like at the beginning, he autographed it for you. I don't think he autographed mine. It was called Jack Magic, Volume 1. Well, there's going to be a Jack Magic Volume 2, but I guess Volume 1 didn't sell well. And he did the second volume digital only, and I never found it anywhere.
Yeah.
But because he self-published this thing and it looked cheap, I think that's why it didn't go. That's why it didn't go over too well. One of the things he kept in there, though, was that Kirby was basically supporting everybody in his family, including his brother and his brother's family. And there was like a incident on there where Roz gets a phone call, and the check is late, and Kirby's brother, I can't for the life of me remember his name, was talking to him, and his wife in the background is yelling, ask Jack where the check is. Like, so, that was another little factor that I think gets left out of a lot of stuff. Kirby, while he was throwing stuff at the wall, it's like, I can't remember, the guy said, you throw enough shit at the wall, it's going to stick, and more of Kirby's shit than somebody else's. That, it's kind of a crude way to put it, but it's true. When Devil Dinosaur and Moon Boy sticked 40 years later, somebody saw something in that. I mean, he was doing stuff just to be doing it. That was a spinoff from 2001: A Space Odyssey, which still, I wonder why in the world Kirby wanted to do basically an old movie, which it was. I think 2001 came out in 1969. His version of it came out much later, and then they made a comic series out of it.
Right. Well, see, there's the thing. Now he goes to Marvel, and they pretty much they know who he is. They gave him his pick. They let him do some of what he wants to do this time. He takes Captain America.
Yeah.
King Kirby is back. Look at that. I mean, that's big stuff in comics back then.
Yeah.
Inked by Ramito on this cover.
But he did
love this cover.
But it pissed me off. It really pissed me off that he didn't go back and do Fantastic Four.
No, he only did covers.
Yeah.
He did covers. He did, and God, he did some great covers. Well, there's another thing. We're going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. He did tons and tons and tons. Let me tell you, I love all of Kirby's stuff. Something about a Kirby Bronze Age cover for his return to Marvel. He did so many of them. Shows Marvel wasn't stupid back then. A Kirby cover sells, I guess.
What was the war he did a cover for that was like, it seemed like...
Which one?
It was a war book. I don't know if it was the Nam or something like that. It took place during the Vietnam War.
You talking about DC?
No, Marvel. It was a Marvel war book, and it had like 4 or 5 Avengers on the cover, and it was Kirby, and it looked
Yeah.
so out of place for the period.
Oh God, I can't remember the name of it. I've probably seen the cover. You know how many covers he did for them when he went back in? And was it 75 or
Well,
whatever?
I can tell you what Greg Dixon did. Remember, Greg Dixon had a process of reviving old art, cleaning it up, and he bleached the color off the pages, and it brightened up the pages that they had so that they could reprint them and recolor them. Somebody, not him, somebody else called it Theakstonizing. He did 12,000 pages. And granted, it wasn't all Kirby, but 12,000 of anything is a lot. He was mainly Kirby, though.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable, all the stuff he did. He did, but when he went back to Marvel, he took over Captain America, and he also created
Was that Machine Man?
Well, he did. Machine Man was spun off from 2001. I think he did Eternals, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, a movie coming out pretty soon called Eternals, of course.
Yeah, called Eternals.
Called Eternals.
How would you pronounce that if it was Eternals in name only?
E-I. E-I-E-I-O. I don't know.
No, it's going to be horrible because they took an idea that Jack Kirby had, and I think it was it Neil Gaiman did an Eternals series?
Yeah, and they got another one coming out too.
Well, that's the Eternals that they're basing this off of, and they're twisting it around, and they're making characters that weren't in the book. Eternals didn't last long either, but it's legendary. I mean, think about this. All right, Commandy kept going after Kirby left DC. Trying to think of who did that. It was, I think, Ernie Chan or maybe Alcala did some of the issues. Jose Delbo, a lot of really a lot of artists that just didn't fit Commandy or Kirby at all. And they may have been okay on themselves, especially
later. Yeah, way later though.
But they were getting Joe Kubert did a couple of covers for Commandy, and they kept it going. Now, for a book to keep going after the creator leaves it, they must have had some kind of faith in it. And I don't care if they don't reprint those parts of it. But I've got the reprinted Eternals, and I've got the original ones. I think I may even have 2 copies of that, the one and only annual they did.
Yeah. I mean, I got it. I didn't buy a lot of Eternals, but I always like this cover because even though that's not really the Hulk,
Yeah, Robot Hulk.
Yeah, it's still
Robot Hulk tried to smash.
Yeah. Well, he did a lot of other stuff too, though. But the books that he actually did interiors on were. Oh, I didn't get a picture of some of them. Damn it. Well, of course, Captain America, where he took over the chores on that one for a while.
Yeah.
For a good what, maybe?
Didn't Vince Coletta didn't ink him at all after that, did he? When he came back?
Oh no. Wasn't it usually like Mike Royer or
Mike Royer?
He did DC stuff. Was he do Marvel?
D. Bruce Berry.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, okay, that's right. But I love some of his covers.
Yeah.
Like stuff he just only did the covers to, but of course he did that. He did 2001 Minutes of a Space Idiocy. Devil Dinosaur was one of the ones he created that he brought there from scratch. That and Eternals. Eternals was, you think it was kind of his way of trying to start a 4th world again, a 5th world?
Could be. He didn't create in New Gods. He didn't create gods that we had already heard of. Hence, New Gods. There was no Zeus, Apollo, any of that kind of business.
Yeah.
When he came back to Marvel, I think he did some covers for Thor. I'm not sure if he did any of the books.
He did. Just covers.
He did. When it came to doing the Eternals basically was New Gods for Marvel.
Yeah, pretty much, huh? I mean, yeah. So, yeah. And it was pretty amazing stuff. 2001 was weird.
Yeah.
Just like you said, just doing a comic book based on that moves from the movie. Adapting the movie is one thing, which was unheard of back then. Pretty soon, by the way, Mark C and I are going to do a show about movie comic book adaptations coming up, everyone. But to do a comic book based on it that moves forward from it, Jack, man, that's crazy, dude. But that's you. That's so Jack. That's the kind of thing he would do, you know?
Well, Arthur C. Clarke did three sequels to 2001, 2010, 2061, and 3001.
That's right. He did.
And I think 2061 was the best of them. And I don't know if Kirby had any effect on that. You know, to think somebody would pick up a book from the 60s, which was based on a short story, and say, let's make a movie out of this. Let's make another movie out of this. And let's make a couple of more sequels out of this. And Arthur C. Clarke was like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll write it. And I got this guy over here that's helping me. So Arthur C. Clarke and Gentry Lee, who I don't know what he's done since then. I think he may be dead, but Arthur C. Clarke is. But I wonder if Arthur C. Clarke ever saw Kirby's 2001.
He was alive. So
yeah, he was, but he was living.
Did.
He was living in Sri Lanka. Yeah, that's where he lived until he died.
Oh, okay.
He's the one who came up with the concept of the telecommunication satellite, which, you know, science fiction creates so much real stuff that all we got to do is wait for it.
So chances are he didn't see a comic book then.
He might have. I mean, people had to know about it.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to find out if he ever saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's pissable. Just trying to find at this point. Yeah. Well, there you go. There's a Thor. You see. He did do
with Ulick
cover of a treasury there.
Yeah. With Ulick. What a great name for a bad guy. Ulick. Ulik. Oh, God.
Well, bad guys can't be choosers.
No.
I mean, that's why he's a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Mangog, okay? Mangog was Kirby was more steeped in legend and myth than Stan Lee was, because he read everything. He told everybody he was, you know, that's what you did when you were a kid in the Depression. You didn't sit there and tell your mom, I'm bored. No, you got a freaking book and you read it, or you went outside, you played with your friends, or you jumped from roof to roof. You did like Depression era kids stuff. He read everything, and that's why we got Thor. That's why we got the gods theme in so much stuff. But Kirby creating gods. You know what? I'm thinking about this. What if one day somebody picks up a book and goes, wow, these people worship some weird gods. Who is this Orion and Light Ray and Metron, the guy in the chair? Oh, and there's the evil guy. There's Darkseid. Wow, his name even sounds bad. And this is, you know, we're going to talk about like 100 years in the future when nobody knows what a comic book was. And they read this up. And, you know, it was something Kirby himself said. Like, who are our gods? When he said he came up with the new gods, like, I think one of the first thing it said was the old gods had died.
Yeah.
That was like in the beginning, the very first issue of New Gods. But Kirby said he was sitting around thinking about that. And the thing that came to him was, who are our gods? I'm thinking, I didn't think there was any more coming around. And then Kirby just creates like a whole universe of new gods and Eternals, and he revamped the old ones too.
Yep. And speaking of adaptations like 2001, there was another adaptation that didn't happen that, man, would have been interesting. My greatest television show of all time, The Prisoner by Jack Kirby. Almost happened. I'm not a number. I'm a Kirby creation. Not really. Didn't happen.
It kind of did.
but it kind of did later with a book that
Yeah.
of course this was colored later. Jack adapted the very first episode, Arrival. Actually, Gil Kane worked on it a little bit later as well. The great Gil Kane, we should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was an interesting thing. Again, sort of like 2001, something that of eminence, something that great.
That kind of stuff interested him. Like
Yeah.
he was more interested in doing The Prisoner than Marvel was, or DC, or whoever it was at the time. I think he could have done something great with it.
It would have been amazing. I loved it. And
even if it just was adapting episodes, it would have been great.
Right. And around that time, probably a little bit before that, Jack was doing some other things in addition to the Marvel and DC stuff. For example, he went and worked for
Days of the Mob.
In the Days of the Mob, and another one we're going to show a picture of in a minute. Yeah, I mean, again, this was a magazine from an independent company. This is actually looks like a British cover, but I just pulled it off because it's the cover.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's got a. I didn't even know they did a British edition.
Didn't they reprint that in like a thin hardcover?
Yeah, you have it, don't you?
I don't have it.
Oh, you said the originals. I think I have the originals also.
I don't have it. I've never seen the inside of In the Mob.
I thought you have it.
Nope.
Maybe I don't have it either.
Another thing Jack Kirby did was he did
this one, Spirit World.
I don't
Neil
have
Adams
that one.
Well, this isn't actually an Adams cover, but it's Kirby.
Damn. But yeah, that was his book.
Well, there is a reprint of both of them. So,
The World Will End in 1983. Yeah, okay.
Well, no wonder. Damn.
Yeah, it's over. Nobody told us.
Also back then, he did something else. He did black light posters.
Yeah, oh my God, I had that one. I won it at a carnival. And it was like I was throwing darts at balloons or something like that. And I won that. And it was not just black light. There was felt on it, too. I have no idea what happened to it. I know I wouldn't have thrown that away. That or my 6-foot Superman, Murphy Anderson Superman flying with a peace sign. I don't know what happened to that one.
Yeah.
I know what happened. I joined the Air Force and my mother threw it away.
Dang. Well.
This doesn't belong on my wall.
Yeah, he did black light posters. They were pretty damn cool. He also worked on a project called, what was it, Lords of Light?
Yeah.
Which later was Lords of Light. Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that phrase will be talked about later. Some beautiful art, though. Jesus. Good God.
That's the Zelazny thing?
Well, wasn't that Science Fiction Land? But yeah, it was also with Zelazny as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But here, another one of the black light posters right there.
Yeah. One that Alex Ross redid.
He did, yeah. That's right.
His wasn't bad, but, you got Kirby. You're just copying him.
We mentioned earlier 2001, then he spun it off to again, so weird. He took a 2001 character, spun it into a Marvel Universe character.
Yeah.
Later, it was originally called Machine something or other, but
Mr. Machine.
Mr. Machine, right? Okay.
Changed his name, made a comic book out of it.
Machine Man, yeah. Just what the hell? Also did some just remarkable covers.
Iron Man with a nose.
Yep, Iron Nose right there. I love Bronze Age Kirby covers. I can't get enough of them.
Yeah.
I remember we were watching that documentary you talked about that we watched, one of the Kirby documentaries where they were interviewing different people. And a lot of people told me this, have said at first when they were younger, whatever, they didn't like Kirby's art.
Yeah.
And they gave you the standard reasons. And I've never had that problem. I always loved it. But
you and Walt Simonson.
Walt Simonson said the same thing. He said, well, I loved it from the beginning.
So I'm better than all those guys.
Yeah.
It was Tim Sale that was talking about all the shit sticking.
Well, our buddy Mark C, when we did our favorite comic book artist countdown a couple weeks ago, he said he was the same way. He loves them now, but he at first he didn't like. I hear it all the time, and I get it. I have so many friends that have said it. I understand where they're coming from, but I don't know. I've always loved it. I had to double look at this one and make sure it wasn't Keith Giffen ripping Kirby, but it was Kirby. This one here. I mean, there's so many. I couldn't even load them all. There were too many Kirby covers of the era back then, where he just went there. In addition to drawing and writing about what 3 or 4 titles.
Yep. And if you see a signature that didn't say Jack Kirby, and there was like a K/S, that was Kirby and Snot.
Yeah, unbelievable. Always loved. This was a great issue. The interior also great.
Yeah. Oh, how about that?
Perez,
that what if the bullpen were the Fantastic Four? That was a pretty good story.
Yeah, I forgot to load that one.
Kirby was the thing. I guess Stan Lee had to be Mr. Fantastic. Flo Steinberg.
Yeah,
was Invisible Girl, and Little Saul Brodsky was the Human Torch.
Yeah, great stuff. And yeah, he stayed at Marvel for a number of years, and then he left.
He was even a character in the comics, like in this one. And
yeah, he was Tanner in this one, and so was Roy Thomas.
And he's sitting down talking about why don't you just make stories up? It's like George Perez and Roy Thomas are going, what do you mean make stuff up?
Make stories up, yeah. Why would we do that?
Yeah.
That was great stuff. Yeah, I love this. Was a great issue. It was Perez and Sinnott, but God, Joe Sinnott, rest his soul, great inker, my favorite inker. And then, but he also did a standalone graphic novel, if you want to call it that. It was, because it wasn't a reprint.
Officially the first graphic novel that Marvel ever did?
I think it was, because it was before Death of Captain Marvel. So yeah, it was the first one that I know of, unless someone knows another one. It was indeed, yeah. So that was great. And then not too long, a little bit later, and this is right when I was just starting to do a subscription service and about to start working in a comic book shop. PC, not to be confused with politically correct comics. I mean, they were just like when DC landed Jack, they were excited, and when Marvel got him back, they were excited. They were Kirby, Captain Victory and his Galactic Rangers. Kirby went there and did a couple series for them. This one. This is, of course, Jack Kirby's Captain. I remember how excited I was when this came out, and I bought them all probably. And then he did another one called Silver Stars. It's the greatest work, no, but it's still Kirby. It's yeah. So,
well, they redid. I don't know if they redid the whole. They did the book. They took drawings that Kirby did, and they had popular artists of the time ink them. And you're like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and people like that. But another thing that is the holy grail, as far as I'm concerned, Jack Kirby's Heroes and Villains, hardback, that was penciled drawings that he did for Roz. I think he did them for Valentine's Day. He did enough to cram into a book. And I, like an idiot, I bought it and I got it, and I'm going, hey, I'd love to ink Kirby. And I inked a whole bunch of the pages. And then a few years later, I think after Kirby died, they did a book like that where they had famous inkers go in.
Yeah, I have that one.
And ink the book. Well, I've still got mine, but I think the one you got, is it paperback?
Yeah, I remember with John Dell and Derek and I in the shop looking at it, looking at when I got it, looking at naming the different, challenging each other to name the inkers and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. At Carl's shop.
But I got the original. Look up the original one uninked on Amazon. See how much that bitch costs, because
really?
I'm pretty sure it's a lot. It's like, well, last time I looked, it was like $400.
Wow. Well, I did not. I mean, I got to dig mine up somewhere and look at it again. Some other things Kirby did in comics, of course, was Destroyer Duck, which was a book I was working at Southland Comics at the time. This was a benefit, as you can see, special lawsuit benefit edition. Writer Steve Gerber was having a lawsuit against Marvel Comics over the rights to Howard the Duck, his creation, and Jack Kirby and many other creators for Eclipse Comics did this benefit edition comic, and of course we ordered the hell out of that sucker. And look at who he's fighting. God Corps Limited.
Yeah, Marvel.
Marvel Comics. Foog, Friends of Old Gerber. Instead of Friends of Old Marvel. Yep. So, other than that, one of Jack's last things was, I think you probably all remember this one. He didn't really do most of the art on this cover. It was mostly inked by someone else, but I just grabbed it because it had heroes on it. Kirby designed a toy line and a comics that would inspire a toy line, of course, as you all know, called Superpowers. The title in the Super Friends cartoon even reflected that. Superpowers, Galactic Guardians, and all that stuff. And, of course, one of the greatest toy lines of superhero toy lines ever, mid-'80s, the Superpowers line. This was, of course, Jeanette Kahn, under the cajoling of a lot of different people, probably like Paul Levitz and a lot of other people, had been talked into letting Kirby do this to help him out a little bit for all he'd done for Marvel and DC and comics in general over the years. And the Kirbys needed it, to be honest. And it's a good thing that, yes, believe it or not, DC Comics, well, people at DC Comics did something nice for Jack Kirby.
Paul
Kirby,
was Paul Levitz. I think that
had to be
was
Levitz.
Paul Levitz.
Yeah, maybe Dick Giordano and people like that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it wouldn't have been Jeanette Kahn's idea, but it was nice of her to help him, and they helped Kirby. That's a good thing, and that was great. And of course, it gave the kids and us and everyone not only getting to see Kirby do some of these characters you never get him to see, but also a great toy line. And if that wasn't enough, one for 15 lifetimes of creating, he also had a hand in creating what, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated, one of the most wonderful cartoons ever made. Thundar the Barbarian. To hear that music.
Ookla, Ariel,
the Bard. He helped do a lot of the heavy lifting on creation on this one when he was brought into Ruby Spears. And you know what sucks though, because I love the cartoon. Should have lasted longer.
Yeah.
God, it was so good.
A lot of those things that weren't around since the 40s, like Tom and Jerry, Bugs Bunny and stuff, they didn't last long at all, really, on TV.
No.
But here, can I ruin your day with this? Remember I said it's kind of hard to find?
Yeah, well, it needed to be ruined.
Okay. Jack Kirby's Heroes and Villains, rare gold lettering edition, signed at 74 of 100, $7,500. And the black cover that doesn't have, you can see the writing on it, but it's not raised. I mean, it's raised, but it's not painted. $500.
You talking about the hardcover?
Yeah, that's the one I have.
I think that's the one I have.
You got
I can't remember which one I have now.
Okay, the Black Magic Edition is probably what you have. There's one for $38.46. There's another one for 79 something, but yeah, I think it was 25 when it came out, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. RR. I'm Paulie, my great friend Latino Slant. Thanks for being here, my friends. I had them.
Yeah.
I have one of them anyway. I don't know. I'm sure I still have them. Good God, that's ridiculous.
And you still have your you still have your Thundar the Barbarian action figure, don't you?
Action figures?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got it. I think I only have Thundar.
Freaking Suncoast Video of all places had all of them, and I'm looking at it. I go, man, that's kind of a lot. And then you probably got it there, and I went back and they were going out of business, and it was like 40% off. I'm like, come back at me on 40% off. But then next thing I know, they're gone. They're out of business. They're gone forever.
I got Thundar. Yeah, I got Thundar sitting next to Commandy.
Yeah.
And this is actually yesterday, so may as well put the Ruby Spears in conjunction with Sid and Marty Krofft. Anyone knows those names? You got to be old, but yesterday Joe Ruby, the co-creator of Scooby-Doo and part of Ruby Spears, had passed away. Rest his soul. But this is Sid and Marty Krofft, Joe Ruby, and Jack Spears of Ruby Spears with a bunch of Kirby art behind them, because Kirby went to Ruby Spears and was sort of see.
Well, those things are in a card series. They did 2 Kirby card series, and I think all that stuff.
Yeah, I have it
in there. And even that the Star Wars that he did.
Love Suncoast, yeah. Oh yeah, the Star Wars cover. Yeah, you're right. No, it was great. But this Ruby Spear stuff. Thing is, even though Thundar is the only thing that happened, Kirby created a. I mean, he just sat around. They said he was at the offices, and like
Yeah.
the creative genius that he is, he just kept turning out all kind of ideas. Like Minimus just said, they did a bunch of card sets. But here's some of the crazy pictures. I mean, there's so many I couldn't put them all up. The different of concepts for cartoons that he created and gave them. That, man, I just see some of these go, man, how cool would these cartoons be? But I guess Ruby Spears, I don't know, didn't have the means to do them all, or
I didn't have the time to do them all.
The time, yeah. But it's just, and again, like you said, the card sets. I have that card set; it's wonderful, and it's just fun to see what might have been if Kirby had been just. I mean, he was let loose. I mean, they got to do whatever, create things. If they had just done 2 or 3 of these, what a crazy cartoons these would have been. Power Planet. Look at how Kirby that is. Good God. So it's one of those what might have been, but it's pretty damn cool. The Cassette Man.
The Cassette Man.
Yeah, this one's for you, Paulie. The Cassette Man. That cool little old cassette player you got the other night you were showing on the show, man. So, yo, Paulie, this is you. You are now Cassette Man, sir.
Cassette is in chest slot.
Yes. He plays, and it looks like it's a VHS.
Didn't he do some G.I. Joe ads too? Not G.I.
No, Big Jim.
Big Jim,
I should have loaded some of those. I love the old Big Jim toys of the 70s. I totally forgot. I'm glad you mentioned it. He did a lot of ads and stuff. Not a lot, but he did ads. Anyone remember Big Jim? I love that toy line. I had that. My brothers and I got those almost every Christmas back then. Eastland, hello again. But yeah, he did a lot of ad work. He did this stuff for Ruby Spheres. And then we're getting toward the end where he really wasn't doing much. But in conjunction with Topps Comics, he did start to do, let me find it here. They started doing a couple of comics that Kirby was involved in, doing some covers mostly, right?
Yeah. He did an issue. He did one issue of something.
I think it was this
Bombast?
or Bombast. It may have been Bombast. He did a lot of covers though, but I can't remember for sure. He did covers, and I bought them because it was Kirby, of course. And it was good for Kirby. And Topps Comics. I don't know if they lasted all that long though. They were they were a card company.
Here's what I'm looking at. Okay. Secret City Saga, Night Glider, Captain Glory. He also did Silver Star for Topps Comics, Bombast, Satan 6. He just sat down. He probably sit on the toilet and come up with 10 ideas before he's done with a dump.
Yeah, he was. When I say it, I don't. I'm not embarrassed when I say he was the greatest creative force of the 20th century and beyond, because he was a creative force.
And he was so busy creating, somebody else got to take credit for it.
Yeah, he really wasn't that good at guarding his creation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man. Jack Kirby's Heroes and Villains hardcover. I'm afraid to look at it.
That's the $500.
Signed.
The signed one was limited to 100.
No price.
So
no price on it.
Well, one I just was $7,500.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think I have the Black Magic edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one where all the different inkers. Still pretty cool though. Yeah, I thought I had the hardcover, but I'm probably. You said you have the hardcover, right?
I do.
I might still have it. I might have. I mean, I know I wanted it. Bought it. Damn.
I'm looking at I googled this Jack Kirby and stuff. Anyway, there's a picture of the Kirby Superman face next to the Murphy Anderson Superman face that's actually the same drawing. And he made his Superman looked more mature.
Yeah.
His Man of Steel though was Ben Boxer.
Yep. I didn't upload any pictures of him, but it's OMAC.
Oh, guest starring Eric Larson's Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
Look at all the people that helped out on this book. Rascally Roy Thomas, Groovy Gary Friedrich, Darlin Dick Ayers, and Big John Severin. Wahoo. So, good Lord, man. Can you imagine somebody today just churning out that many ideas? Like, Todd McFarlane he did Spawn. He's been dragging it out forever, but he pretty much, that's it. That's all he did was Spawn. He made like a kind of a cottage industry of it. He also did toys and stuff like that. He was more of a businessman. But I can't even think of anybody else that could do that many ideas and make them all as successful as that. Like, think about it. Now, we don't really give credit to Jack Kirby for Doctor Strange, but you got to think Jack Kirby was busy doing everything else, so the credit to Doctor Strange goes to Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. But if Jack Kirby had the time, you imagine. Well, I don't know what Jack Kirby's Doctor Strange would look like. Doctor Strange, Spider-Man. We do know what his Spider-Man would have looked like because he did that first cover. Now, Steve Ditko had a problem with Stan Lee too, and I think Steve Ditko was the guy who just walked away and never went back because there's a thing on YouTube, a documentary on YouTube called "In Search of Steve Ditko," where Jonathan Ross flies from England and he interviews Stan Lee, and he made Stan Lee very uncomfortable, asking him, "Do you consider Steve Ditko to be the co-creator?" And the thing about that was, he said, "Yes, I do consider Steve Ditko to be one of the creators of Spider-Man." We found out later the reason he did that was because his lawyer was supposed to be there, but they had limited time with Stan Lee and they had limited time with the video crew, and Stan Lee's lawyer was stuck in traffic.
And Stan,
that's why we got that. I
Yeah.
wish somebody would come up with that about Jack Kirby. Now, the book Tales to Astonish, where they kind of treat they don't really treat Stan like a superstar. They want you to feel sorry for him. After Kirby died, and I don't know if this is true, maybe it is. After Kirby died, Stan Lee talked about his regret for not giving Kirby more credit.
Yes, he has on occasion. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but the time to do that is while the guy's still alive. I mean, it doesn't really do him any good now. And I'm as vocal as you are. When I hear somebody go, "Wow, Stan Lee really created a great character. That Captain America's cool." Right? Stan Lee didn't create Captain America. And I was in a comic shop. I think I might have told you about this once. A newspaper reporter was doing an article about this comic shop in Haildioburg, Mississippi. Really nice little spot. And she said, the guy says, "Oh, we're going to Wizard World this weekend, and Stan Lee's going to be there." And the girl said, "Oh, wow, I've always wanted to meet Stan Lee. He created all those characters. How did he do that? And how he's still going strong?" And, he was like in his late 80s by then. But I said, it's easy to keep going when you're living off of the blood of true creators. And they both, like the store owner, like, what? And the girl looked over at me like, "Hey, there's another person in here with an opinion." And I told her, I gave her the Cliff Notes version of it. You had real artists whose whole life is about creation. And you had Stan Lee, who, according to him and according to his late wife, Joan, His aim was to write the great American novel, and he was embarrassed to be working in comics. And he even said his name, Stan Lee, his real name was Stanley Lieber, came from shortening it because he didn't want to one day write the great American novel and have somebody go, "Oh, you're the guy who used to write Spider-Man." But that's what he's known for.
Yeah, well, again, you know where I stand on it. I think
I do.
Stan stole a lot.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but there's a lot of evidence out there, like Fantastic Four Challenge the Unknown.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, but again, this is about celebrating Kirby's birthday. But to go to your point a little bit, though, a couple of weeks back when Carlos and I were talking about Kirby doing Kirby's show, he did say, because he's annoyed by it as well, he was at a con, he was cosplaying at a con, a bunch of friends, it was in Mexico, and he was telling me all these different friends. One of his buddies was doing a pretty good Captain America cosplay. Stanley was at this con, it was a few years back, obviously. And he said the guy had the shield and all that kind of stuff. The guy had Stan Lee sign his Captain America shield, and he brought it over to Carlos, all proud. Look at this, man. Stan Lee signed my Captain America shield. And he goes, "You idiot. Stan Lee didn't create Captain America." And the guy goes, "What? What do you mean? Oh, come on, man. He did. You're cosplaying Captain America. You should know that Stan Lee had nothing to do with creating him."
Yeah.
Eastland knows Hattiesburg. Oh, there you go. Yeah, in Hattiesburg. Eastland's from around that area, or close. I think he's Alabama. I'm not sure where he's from. Maybe Mississippi. Anyway, yes, Eastland.
Earth.
But on the Kirby Superman face you were talking about, yes, if you look at the right there, that looks like a Murphy Anderson redrawn face of Superman. That's what. And on your left, of course, is Kirby. Now, why wouldn't they just leave Kirby's Superman face alone? Why?
I don't know. Because he did kind of look like Ben Boxer in this picture.
Yeah, but, a lot of superheroes look sort of alike. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know sometimes. But anyway. Well, what can you do?
Well, they said like the way to prove who had more creative power was count Kirby's contributions while he was at Marvel. Count Stan Lee's contributions after Kirby left Marvel. What did he do? Stripperella. He even did one called Plasmer, the same time that Jim Shooter did a book called Plasm.
Solar Man.
Yeah, Solar Man.
Savage 2099, was that him?
He did a few things, but none of that stuff.
Yeah, none of it was
memorable.
None of it was any good. No, it's not. No. Yeah,
Stripperella got made into a cartoon, and I think he might have met what's her name, the blonde actress, Pamela Anderson. He might have met her, and she was talking about how cute he was or something. But
yeah. And then later, after Jack's passing, February 6th, 1994, I got a call from a friend of mine who was an artist, or for Marvel and DC, I think at the time. And at the time, as you know, there's no real internet or anything like that. And he called it because he knew what a fan of Kirby I was, and he told me about it, and told me about Jack's passing, and it just hit me in the gut, and he, it was a rough day for me, and it turned out that was only like a couple hours after it had happened, and it spread through the industry like wildfire as a fallen king would, Actually, Eastland's fairly close to Hattiesburg there, so yeah. 2 years later, of course, a magazine came out that I've been buying since the beginning by Mr. John Morrow. It's called the Jack Kirby Collector. T. Morrow's, and it's still going to this day. It's quarterly. They're up to like 75 issues over the course of 25 years or whatever. But
and there were treasury editions for a while.
Yeah, I love the treasury edition size ones. But I would just say, I would ask, do any of you know any other comic book artist that has their own magazine devoted to them? I'll wait. I mean, because he's not just a comic book artist; he's a creator. And God, I love this mag, and it just is a testament to how important the King of Comics is, and
There
if
are
you're the
also a
King of
lot of
Comics,
there are also a lot of books about him.
oh yeah, there are plenty of books.
Mostly about his art. Like Mark Evanier did one that kind of it was good and it was big and it was basically just said Kirby.
Yeah,
And
I
a
have that one.
few weeks after it came out, it got put down onto the remaindered rack, which is when I got it. But
Yeah,
there was also the big Simon and Kirby book. That's another thing a lot of people gloss over is that Joe Simon and Jack Kirby work so well together that
yes, that's true.
you couldn't tell, and they even said we don't know who drew or who said what. Like in Captain America, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby created Captain America. Stanley had nothing to do with it, but
Right.
their drawings were fluid. They were kind of rough, but they were action packed comics back in the 40s. And a lot of people forget though they didn't do it very long. Jack Kirby had to go fight a war.
That is correct. We did not mention that because we've been talking about his later career, but he did. He's a war hero. By the way, if any one of you have Amazon and you're interested, Jack Kirby at War, great documentary about Jack Kirby's years in World War II and how it affected his life and his art. I highly recommend it. Very good. I don't know if you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
So,
but
Eastland,
also, if you can find that, I think it's Fantastic Four, the first one, not the Rise of Silver. It might have been Rise of Silver Surfer. Has a 1 hour documentary about Jack Kirby, and it's not just about Jack Kirby creating Fantastic Four. It's about Jack Kirby. Yeah, and there's one very very telling thing on there. Barry Windsor Smith is talking about all the stuff that Jack created.
Yes. Who inked the cover, by the way. Yeah,
and he pretty much dismisses the idea that Stan created anything.
Yeah, he was pretty upfront. Barry Windsor, who inked this Kirby cover, by the way. Coincidentally, because I didn't know you were going to talk about Windsor Smith, but yes, he was. And this was a documentary. It's not like a couple of fans sitting around.
No.
This is Barry Windsor Smith, one of the great comic artists, saying that in a pretty bold fashion, saying he was talking about something that Kirby did. And I don't remember. He said, basically, you think Stan Lee could have done that? No. You don't know what you're talking about.
No, he said, you think Stan Lee could have done that? And he went, no.
No. Now, this is not a beat up on Stan thing, guys. It's just, this is a.
Well, Stan Lee was even in that documentary.
No, yeah, he was. This is just to give people who don't know, and I'm not saying it. You all probably know, but that Kirby, just gets slighted so much, and not all of it's Stan's fault that he gets slighted, but a lot of it is, and we just, something that's a stickler with me.
Seriously, I want to say something about that. I really don't think Stan Lee started out to push Jack Kirby off the page.
No,
I think he got caught up in something that the publicity people said, okay, Stan, you're very popular on the circuit at colleges, and colleges really love you. And he goes to college, and people would greet him like he was Mick Jagger. And he even made a crack about that in that movie Mallrats. Him and Mick Jagger used to trade women or something because they were both so cool. Of course, that was a parody of Stan Lee in that movie, but that was him. Anyway, I really don't. You can't blame Stan Lee for somebody saying you're great. Really? I'm great. And people around, yeah, you are great. And then a bunch of other people gather around and, wow, he's great. And you hear that enough, you begin to believe it. And your boss, whoever, I think Martin Goodman died in '92, but he wasn't the boss for very long after that. But anyway, I mean, he wasn't the boss for very long after World War II, I think maybe up into the Silver Age, but that was kind of, the guy was related to Lee. And he was
Martin Goodman was the villain here, really.
He was initially getting him on the cheap because he was a 13-year-old kid, not unlike Jim Shooter, who started when he was 13 doing comics.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Eastland, Stan Lee got pressed forward. He was the face. he was the face of Marvel Comics, and he was the voice of Marvel Comics. And like I said earlier, Jack Kirby was busy doing the work.
Look, he was a great Huckster. I mean, look, he was without him, his promotional skills, which he probably didn't even know he had. There would be no Marvel. That's also true. So he had made a great contribution, but running around saying I did everything I did. For example, it's not like he went out and just tried to purposely make people believe it, but people would say stuff like, "So, what were you thinking when you created this and you created that?" And he would go and he would talk like he would answer it like he never corrected people that much. Like, well, I had a lot of help. We did this. It was I just came up with this idea. And
okay. Now, one of the ones that's so telling of it, like I said earlier, Challenges of the Unknown and Fantastic Four are parallel. Basically, start off the same way. Challengers weren't superheroes; they were adventurers. What's the other thing?
What? What do you mean?
Okay, Stan Lee gets to say, "I created this," and everybody takes his word for it.
Yeah.
There was a character that he even said he didn't create, but later said he did. Silver Surfer. That was Jack Kirby. That was a throwaway character that Jack Kirby put in the Galactus trilogy. And Stan Lee says it this way. He said, Jack brought the pages back, and I looked there, and there's a guy on a gleaming surfboard flying around. And I said, who the hell is this? And Kirby goes, well, big character like Galactus wouldn't just go to a planet by himself. He'd send the Herald on first. And I believe might have named him the Silver Surfer, but Kirby created him. But in an interview, I'm thinking it was Comics interview, he joked about it. And it was a very insulting joke. I don't know if Kirby ever read it. I hope he didn't. But somebody said, how did you come up with the Silver Surfer? The interviewer said, how did you come up with the Silver Surfer? After it had already been printed, and after Stan Lee had already given total credit to Jack Kirby, he said, well, I came up with this character, and I thought, I bet old Jackson can't draw his heh. Meaning that was his way of, complimenting Jack Kirby. Yeah, Jack Kirby can draw anything. And people thought, after they read that, they must have thought Stan Lee created, and they kept calling it Stan Lee's Silver Surfer. And Stan Lee became more connected to the Silver Surfer than any other character in Marvel Comics. But later, when they did like an anthology of Silver Surfer stories, I think it was hardback and a paperback. I got the paperback. I don't have my hardback. He again gave credit to Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby created it. He told the truth. But a lot of people say it's because Stan was getting old. He couldn't really remember a lot of stuff. And they said Kirby was old. He couldn't remember a lot of stuff. But Stan Lee, right there in print, I guess it's still available out there somewhere. Go to Amazon, look up Son of Origins of Marvel Comics.
I still have mine. Yeah.
And the one with Silver Surfer on the cover. That's the one where he gives complete, total credit for the creation of Silver Surfer. But for some reason became known as the creator of Silver Surfer because when John Buscema was drawing it, all the way up to when Jean Giraud was drawing it. And I got to wonder right now, when I saw Jean Giraud and Jack Kirby sitting there at that table, were they thinking, was he thinking, I wonder if he thinks Stan created Silver Surfer?
I think, well, those, by the way, you're not saying, you're avoiding saying Mobius for John Giraud's Mobius. He probably knew. I mean, he was, I don't know.
He was a Jack Kirby of France. He did
he was great.
Everything. He did Lieutenant Blueberry, he did Arzak, he did, what was that big one? He did a lot of stuff that got translated into Heavy Metal magazine. And his work, like Kirby, it still holds up today. And if you can find those, they put out in trade paperback. Those things are awesome to look at. Some of the stuff he made in the movies back then, while he was still alive.
But Kirby Silver Surfer was still better. Crimson Tide.
Yep. Oh yeah, true. I remember that.
Tarantino's little Kirby argument, but yeah. So yeah, basically that's the kind of a rundown of Jack Kirby starting the Bronze Age, some of the things he did over the last. I guess it was I guess you'd have to say about the last 20 years of his career there. It was remarkable career in terms of as a regular artist. So really, I mean, he did it for like 40, almost just about 40 years. That's unbelievable. In terms of doing comic books regularly, especially.
There's not a whole lot of people who could do that. Gil Kane was one. Will Eisner was one. Will Eisner wasn't continuously. Will Eisner was a cartoonist for 50 years, and he did stuff. He did the Spirit. He did a lot of them, and then one day he just quit, and then they started reprinting them. And I guess he was living off of that. He became very popular in Brazil. If you look up it's not a very long video. It's called Will Eisner Cartoonist, and a lot of the stuff he must have spoke the language. He must have spoke Portuguese because they're complimenting him at a convention in Portuguese in Brazil, and he's smiling. So I'm guessing he understood. And he is in Brazil. Will Eisner is a legend. But you do have these guys, Will Eisner and Jack Kirby. I don't know how well they knew each other.
Yeah.
But do you remember Dallas Fantasy Fair? When they were talking about Jack Kirby's art?
That panel.
It became like everybody was throwing words around. Bern Hogarth was very eloquent, and they go to Will Eisner and said, "Oh, Will, what are your thoughts on this?" He goes, "Jack, I think they should give you your art back." So,
and by the way, we should announce the cast of that panel that we were lucky enough to see. It was, of course, Special Jack Kirby.
Is that the Special K panel?
Yeah, the Special K panel was Jack Kirby, Will Eisner. Was Gil Kane at that one?
Yeah.
Gil Kane.
No, Gil Kane wasn't at that one.
He wasn't at that one. Frank Miller.
Harvey Kurtzman.
And
Dave was supposed to be there, but he didn't make it on time.
Bern Hogarth and Gary Groth.
Yeah.
Gil Kane was at that con. I don't think he was at that panel.
I wonder. No, he was at a con that I went to.
He was at that con.
Yeah.
Remember when we were waiting for them in the restaurant?
Oh, yeah. Cat Ironwood, who showed utter respect.
That was the year before she said that crap, yeah.
You wanted to give her a nasal shot.
Yeah, she made a crack about Gil Kane's nasal shots. Screw her. Or don't screw her, actually.
Don't screw her.
Don't screw her. Man, nothing like some of these amazing Kirby designs, Kirby collages and what have you. Great stuff.
That is another thing we didn't touch on, the collages that he put in mainstream comics. And it looked, a lot of people think, oh, this is a time saving. Didn't have to draw all this shit. But you know what he had to do? He had to find the stuff. He had to cut it out. He had to place it just right. He designed these things. There were some awesome stuff. The Negative Zone with the Fantastic Four. I mean, with Johnny and Reed and Ben flying through with the collage stuff in the background. I mean, you can look at it and go, that's not an outer space thing. That's like an antenna.
There's nothing like a Kirby collage.
Yeah.
And again, there's also nothing like Kirby machines. Jesus Christ. I mean, look, they're mind-boggling. And I love them. I mean, I could look at Kirby machines all day. They're just...
It took up a whole page a lot of the time. It was like, we're light on story, but Kirby's going to put a fucking machine in here.
Look at a Kirby page, how busy they are. He's great with the big 2-page spreads, but he can make one page look like it's moving. Look, because it's busy. There's so much action. They're 3D in a sense. They move. That one page tells a story. Look how detailed. Look at everything he does.
Yeah, there's 2001.
Artists today can't do that crap. That's the back cover of the 2001 Treasury edition.
I would say that George Perez used to be able to do it. I don't know about anymore.
No. Yeah, but he was great. No, that's true. There were some, but I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
I mean, he could do a big crowd like that, and it looks like that looks like a movie.
Alex Ross can do it as a painting, but when you go to continuity, he'd probably take forever.
the energy. That looks like a real fight. That looks like it's animated almost. It's moving. God, looks like the Fantastic Four are really flying through the air right there in this one. I always love this pinup with this great Son of Inks there. Oh God, I mean, there's nothing like this art.
Look at those buildings in the background. Our friend Roland Paris was talking about inking a page for somebody one time, and there were buildings in the background. And he said it took him all day, and when he was done, he had to put his hands in ice water because they were cramped up so much. I wonder if Joe Sennett was feeling that much stress, that much physical stress after he did this.
My only way I can answer that, Dioberg, interesting question, trying to think, did he ever have a panel without a background? Only if Vince Colletta got his hands on it. Unfortunately, Vince Colletta was called by the great Gil Kane, the first DC Comics' first sanctioned abortionist.
Yep.
He would erase backgrounds. He didn't screw with Kirby as bad, but he erased backgrounds. So, yeah, Kirby one with Colletta ink, that could be the only time.
A little story about Vince Colletta, and I don't know if it's in the Thin Gray Line book about him or not. The reason Vince Colletta became an inker was because I think he got out of the Army or something, and somebody said, "Hey, you want to make $30 a week?" He said, "Yeah, how can I do that?" And they said, "All you got to do is trace over these lines that these artists do." They says, "Yeah, I can do that," and he could. You know, he was utilitarian. He was like a shovel. He was also like a sledgehammer.
Yes.
He ruined a lot of art, but we'll never really know. He would actually physically erase backgrounds and characters from the background and ruin the art, and because he didn't want to ink that much stuff. He went on to become like a fan favorite inker for Dazzler, and he did Dazzler the graphic novel, and he won like the best inker for that damn thing.
I don't know why.
And I could never see it. I could never see anything good coming from Vince Colletta. And I was, this is me talking like I'm dropping names, but I was talking to Gil Kane at one of the Dallas Fantasy Fairs, and I was getting around to the sensitive subject of about how I thought Vince Colletta ruined a bunch of art. And I started off by saying, now, Vince Colletta may be a nice guy, and I was going to say, but he's not a really great inker. I might have even said he's a shit inker. But I said, Vince Colletta may be a nice guy, and Gil Kane looked up. He had his glasses were down on his nose while he was drawing. He looked right up at me, gave a death glare, and he said, Vince Colletta is not a nice guy. I'm taking Gil. Yeah, but they weren't. I'm taking Gil Kane's word for it. That was another one where kids came up. Two boys came up, and they had comics. And
Gil Kane.
Well, I'm watching Gil Kane draw. He was drawing Batman. I think I still have pictures of it. And one of the kids asked me, he said, "Who is that?" I said, "It's Gil Kane." They go, "Who is Gil Kane?" Who is Gil Kane? They were little kids. I mean, they were probably like 12 or something. They said, "Who?" And I said, Gil Kane, along with Jack Kirby, were the greatest artists. And I was trying to. He cut me off again. I was going to say the greatest artist is Silver Age, and he cut me off. He said, "Jack Kirby is the greatest artist." Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not arguing with you.
Gil Kane said it. That's right.
Gil Kane said it, and I got to pass it along to Jack Kirby at the convention I saw them at, and then I brought it back because Eli Katz and his old lady. I was able to spend some time with them at the Net convention in '94 that we went to.
This is one of my favorite Kirby panels of all time right here. This is the Thing knocking the crap out of the Surfer, who let him do it, obviously. Yeah. But if FF number 55, it's Silver, but Silver Age, Silver Surfer. That panel is always so amazing to me. It's moving. I mean, it's not just static. Look at it. It's so freaking believable.
It's like I don't know if it was Barry Windsor Smith, but he's talking about the way Kirby drew. He said, "This hand over here, it's now. The hand over here, it's in the past. That's why you can look at it. It looks like it's moving because look at his right arm. It's like it's throwing way out that way. His left arm, it's down and away. And his left leg is kind of coming up to where his right arm would be. His right leg is, quote unquote, in the past. It is moving. And with all those shards of stuff coming out at him, that's movement too.
Yeah, yeah, very well done. Yeah,
it's alive.
It is alive. That's a good point. These crazy, this is some of his Lords of Light, black light looking stuff, Lords of Light stuff. Again, look at the machines. And that's a small picture, but good God.
That's not the stuff they recently reprinted in metal, is it?
I think it is.
Because we got that issue.
We have it. Remember, we looked everywhere for it. I found it in Atlanta.
But
around this time of year, a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, I got it over here. I might have 2 copies of it, but yeah, we got it at Oxford Books, didn't we?
I got it at a Barnes and Scrotum in Atlanta.
Okay, maybe that's why I remember it. No, but anyway, they did a series of prints of that, and it was like somebody's trying. It ain't the Kirby family, I don't think. They wanted $250 for a print.
I mean, look at the imagination it must take to draw something insane like this.
Yeah,
it's freaking unbelievable.
And Lin Wein was talking with somebody else on that documentary, and he would say Jack would start up in the left hand corner, he would draw a fist, and then he would go down to the right hand corner and he would draw a foot, and he would continue from there. You never knew where anything was going to be. And yeah, this is a powerful imagination.
Oh, it's just phenomenal. I mean, that's again.
It was like Barry Windsor Smith when he's looking at it. I can't even look at it because there's so much going on. I can't even look at it.
Yeah, it is. It's busy. Is a word I guess you could say for it. You know, it's filled. There's no. Like Dee had said earlier, Thibodeau said, there's never anything without any detail in the background. Yeah. Whether it's a cover, a 1 or a 2-page splash, or anything like that, it's busy. Jack cared about his work. I mean, look how many times, even some of my favorite artists, how they would just have a blank background in a panel, and you just said, okay, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
still a good
comment. Do it. And still do it, even though you have artists who draw computers. I personally know a guy who he will find stuff on the internet, line drawings, and he will print them in blue line onto a page and ink it like upside down microscope, and he would do the whole thing, and the upside down microscope became a space laser on a platform orbiting the Earth. And I'm not going to say his name, but it was a cheat. And there's a whole lot of cheating going on these days because you get a walk-on tablet and you can insert certain things. You can change the color of them. And I found out how to make something into a blind, but I'm not a professional. This is me playing around. But Jack Kirby had a pencil and a page of paper.
Yeah, Haildioburg makes a good point. The so-called comic artists of today do not mention Kirby as someone they admire, which is so obvious and sad. You're so right, Haildioburg. Thank you.
We do know a couple that do. Steve Scott.
There's some. Yeah, I'm not. He didn't. I don't think he meant everybody, but yeah, he's
I know.
Most of them don't. Yeah.
But a lot of the major ones today, who will go through blindly ignoring Jack Kirby, even though they don't know it, that what they call it, subconsciously, they know some Kirby tricks. And even if they're doing it on a computer, they'll use a Kirby trick on a computer. Like this picture right here. Can you go back?
Let me go back to it.
Go back. Dumb in the background. Nick Fury in front. He's firing the machine gun. But because it's not a photograph, you don't see his arms blurring from da-da-da-da-da-da. You see the bullets flying. You see the muzzle flash. You see the guy, what was that, or Junior or somebody, standing by the guy with the grenade in his mouth, fighting. And that's what you get if you could freeze time. That's what you get. Dum Dum throwing a grenade. The grenade is out there. It's like 5 feet away from his face, but he's throwing it. His left leg is back in shadow. No, his right leg is back in shadow. His left, he's running while he's doing this, and he's got his pack that he's carrying the stuff in is swinging around. The machine gun is behind him on a strap in his other arm, and there's an explosion above his head. There's the guy playing at the bottom, which I thought was supposed to be Gabriel, who, Gabriel's not a white guy, but maybe they miscolored him. But there's so much stuff going in here, and like I said, he did it with a pencil.
Not a computer. Wow, not a computer. You know what else is remarkable about this? I'm not sure if this was Sinnott or Ayers or somebody who inked him or whatever, but this is, as we were showing a lot of different work of Kirby that was cosmic and oriented. And cosmic, you can go as crazy as you want. This is very down to earth. This is very real. Well, this is part of Jack Kirby's life. He did this. He was in this, in the war. And it looks still just as spectacular as anything on Apocalypse or the Lords of Light or in an FF book. And it's real life. That's a real life Kirby-ized real life right there.
And look at your picture
Brilliant.
right now. You, like I said, look at the position he's in. Look up in the right corner. Look at what the thing is doing. That's almost the exact same position.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? I didn't realize that. There you go, my trademark there. And Ben Grimm could be around there somewhere because both he and Reed Richards were in that war.
They were. It wasn't Afghanistan. I think Mike Barron brought back the Badger after he'd been gone for a long. Badger used to be a Vietnam veteran, but now he's an Afghan veteran. But because it's a comic book, you don't have to say that Reed and Ben fought side by side in the Falkland Islands. You can say they fought next to Nick Fury in World War II. I mean, nobody's going to go fact check you on that shit because it didn't really happen. It is a good story.
Yeah. But Kirby did it, though.
Yeah. Kirby, Sergeant Fury might have been his most personal book, though.
Yeah. That was amazing. And it probably was. Because, I mean, and again, watch that documentary, Kirby at War, if you want to learn a lot about that. RR. Let's see here. King Kirby is Homer of the 20th century. He created the modern heroic epic, truly a great creative force that only comes around every 1,000 years or so. Amen, RR. That's absolutely true.
I will agree with that. I will second that emotion.
I always call him the greatest,
on the wall.
greatest creative force of the 20th century. Well, and it's a shame that there are not enough people that know it. They feel it because anybody who goes and enjoys so many different films, if they go see the Marvel films or whatever, they're experiencing Kirby. Not enough people know it here on his 103rd birthday. No, you're right. Again, I could never get enough of his covers. Look at his cover. Look, I mean, again, it's in space. He's got a couple of figures at the forefront, and again, all the detail he puts in space, even behind the logo at the top, all of it. Good God.
A lot of Kirby stuff like this are symbolic of what's going on in the comic. As you know, a lot of comics, something on the cover that doesn't happen. Never happened in the comic. It didn't matter with Kirby because you got a really, really nice cover. And the cover is designed to what? Pick the book up and take it home. I'll pay for it. I only did that once. But yeah, that is a great cover. Is that Kirby? Yeah. Like, a lot of people don't know this. Roz used to ink Kirby too. She didn't get credit for it.
Oh yeah, well that's true, isn't it? Yeah. That is true. Yeah.
Didn't we hear John Dell say one time that his wife helps him out with inking?
Yeah, he did. That's true. Yeah, John Dell's
the heavy black hairs that are going to take you away from doing delineation on some detail is I don't know. And John paid every time that I bought a piece of original art from John. He gave the money to his wife. So maybe that's how she gets paid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess we celebrated Kirby pretty good today. I think.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I love those good covers. Let's see. Cultures are created by committees. Yeah.
How about can you find
That's right.
the what if the bullpen was the Fantastic Four cover?
I have that. I thought I'd loaded it, in fact, and I forgot to.
Oh.
But yes, I do have it. Probably. Hang on.
That was a great
Yes,
book. I mean, what if their imaginary stories? When they did that one, that was like a landmark. It was like they were admitting that Kirby was a creative force, but for some reason they thought, yeah, I can see him as Ben Grimm, but I still couldn't see Stanley as Mr. Fantastic.
No, for those who don't know, yeah, it's there was an issue of What If. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the comic, where it was what if the Marvel bullpen were the Fantastic Four, a spoof issue, obviously.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
And Kirby had a deadline to meet, but they had to go fight some monster or something. So he became the Thing.
Yeah, I don't have it somewhere around here. Maybe I do. Well, I thought I know. I swore I loaded that bitch. Well, I probably just have it in the wrong place. But I'm sure you've all seen it. You know. I can't seem to find it at the moment. I thought I had it loaded. I have so many pictures. It's tough to find stuff.
It's easy to find if you're just gonna Google it or something.
I understand that, but I thought I had it in here.
Google.
I know I have it. Sheet.
And it's Kirby's not drawing.
Yeah.
Dad, even my fireballs won't stop that monster. Keep trying, Saul. Come on, Jack. Flo. Right. It's really our time.
I guess.
What if number 11?
Yeah. No, I mean. For what if? If. There it is. Okay. Bringing it up. Well, I have to take it. I have to load it first. I have to, because even though I have it somewhere, I'm just gonna put it where I can find it. What if Marvel comics didn't suck? No, that's that. What if all comics didn't suck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this somewhere. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? All right, everyone. What if number 11 on the way? Well, since my slow ass computer allows it. All right, sorry everyone. I did not expect a request. I thought we were going to put the thing up there. I could have swore I put that sucker up there.
What if I send it to you?
No, I got it. I've got to scroll to it. Takes forever with this stupid crap.
Is called this is what we used to. I used to be a radio. A lot of people don't care.
I know about
this. We used to call this a speed bump. We have to and pad.
Yeah, I know.
Stretch our pads.
Well, I mean, I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I didn't requests or anything. I put all kind of. I mean, this thing only lets you put so much stuff up there. But there you go. But the original Marvel going to become the Fantastic Four. You happy? Blastar. Come on, Saul. Saul Brodsky is the Torch, I guess. Flo Steinberg is Sue. We all know who Jack is. I guess it figures since, Jack would do all the heavy lifting anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, on the left side of the UPC label, very small, big screen monitor, it says Kirby/Senate.
Yep. Joe Sinnott, the great Joe Sinnott, one of my favorite anchors. This is anyone who has not ever read this. It's silly, dopey fun, but yeah, it's fun. And of course, Jack outdid him. This is when, as we were talking earlier, when Jack had gone back to Marvel in the late '70s and was doing a lot of his own stuff. And how Stan or Roy, I think Roy Thomas actually probably wrote it. I think he wrote it. How Roy Thomas talked him into doing this, I don't know.
Well, it's not like Stanley had to actually put on a blue suit and stretch or anything. It was just
it was Roy Thomas. It was Roy Thomas.
Was that the inside? Was that by Perez?
No, the interior is by Kirby.
Kirby did all of it.
All of it.
Damn.
The pencils, Kirby and Sinnott.
How about that forgotten story that they finally reprinted of Janus?
Yeah, I know what you're talking. There was I don't know. I mean, I don't know where. I don't have it right now. But I mean, yeah, they did a forgotten story. That was much later that they reprinted it.
They reprinted it in FF's trade paperback.
Yeah, they did. Lost FF story or whatever.
There was also another one that was they took Jack's storyboards, kind of behind his back, for the Fantastic Four cartoon with Herbie the Robot, and they put that in an issue, and he was not pleased. And I kind of think that was somebody at Marvel going, "Oh, really? Here, you made money off us all this time. Now let's make some money off you." Which, now that's all they're doing.
Yeah. Well. We have been. That's a lie. Well.
You went back to the well 3 times there.
Well, we've been here a while now, and I want to thank everyone for showing up to celebrate the birthday of the King 103 years ago today. Happy birthday, Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
I think we talked a lot about the end of his career there, which was just as spectacular as the beginning and almost as spectacular as the middle. There were almost like 3 chapters to it in a sense.
Yeah.
40 years of creating universes and universes.
And now he's a Disney legend.
Yeah.
He was inducted into the Disney Hall of Fame, and his son, Neil, was named after Neil Adams, came up on stage and thanked them for it. But I don't know what Neil actually does for a living, but Jeremy Kirby, who is Kirby's grandson, has a website where he hawks all kinds of Kirby merchandise.
Yeah. And he I see his Twitter all the time. He always puts a lot of good stuff up there. Those of you who have not, there's a great documentary on YouTube about Jack Kirby. What was it called? Well, just Google Jack Kirby documentary. You'll find something. There are a few things, actually. The Kirby Museum, I'm not big on them, but the Kirby Continuum is a great YouTube page. They got a lot of good stuff there. And, of course, go to Amazon and go watch Kirby at War, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
Documentary about his times in the war and how the war affected not only his life but his art. Happy birthday to the great Jack Kirby. I want to thank everyone for being here. All my friends who popped in. Polly, R. Eastland Burkholder, thank you so much. I'm always glad to see you. D. Oberg, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to have you here. Eastland, I already said you, but you were worthy of mentioning twice, my friend. The beautiful Nicole who popped in earlier. If I hope I didn't miss anyone, but anyone else who had popped in, just listen. There's no one else I can think of. Somebody of minimal importance, Minimus Prime. We don't thank him around here.
Not enough, anyway.
Thank you for being here, Butt Nose. I can't think without insulting him. It just doesn't work.
It does. No, it doesn't. If a day without an insult from you is like night.
Indeed. So again, also a big old shout out to my great friend Loki, who again provided us with this fantastic intro outro, and I guess I will play my new intro outro because I'm so proud of it, and so and again so appreciative of it. Well, let's do that. Since again, and it's a pretty great tribute to the king actually as well. So as soon as I get to there we go. Thank you everyone. Watch this